It's a beautiful day. It has been a beautiful day, and it continues to be a beautiful day. Um, I have just been thinking, and I suppose I want to crystallize some of my thoughts. It looks pretty yellow. You know what I mean? Like that. The is that just because of the monitor that I'm on there? I suppose that's just a bit. That's just is what it is. It's pretty yellow, but that's just because it's the golden light. It's the golden warm tone that comes in the house. So I wanted to chat freely about something that is near and dear to my heart. Um, but how do I start this? Very often I find that the prevailing question that is present in a lot of the sort of reactionary, or maybe that's not the right word because of the context or whatever. But when a lot of the common theme of the counter argument, basically, and it's always the counter argument in this country. This is New Zealand, and I think it's something that maybe we deal with to a larger extent in the West, but it's certainly something that is a big part of politics in New Zealand. That the question underlying always seems to be, who do you think you are? Who do you think you are for caring about this or that thing? Like, why do you care? Or why do you think you have the appropriate level of mental faculty to talk about how you feel about politics in your country? Or it's something like, are you sure you have the qualifications to feel the way that you feel? Or to think the thoughts that you're thinking? Or it's like, hey, shut the fuck up. I think it's basically that's basically the main theme. And so it's like, hey, I've got some questions about the level of immigration. Shut the fuck up. Hey, are you sure we should be allowing abortion up to birth? Shut the fuck up. Hey, I don't know how I feel about this opening up of the property market to, hey, shut the fuck up. And it's like everywhere you go in politics, no matter which side you're on, and I'm trying to genuinely sympathize with everyone here. Everywhere you go, the only argument you're going to deal with, especially in New Zealand and especially in the modern internet culture, is shut up. Just shut up. Are you sure that a man can become a shut up? I don't know if I feel comfortable with letting men into the shut up. I don't know, man. Recently I've noticed there's a lot of people on the road that seem to have a really hard time doing the speed limit. Shut up! And that's all we do. So anytime someone puts their hand up and says, hey, I have a concern, I'm a citizen, I'm a little bit worried about, shut the fuck up, bro. And that's all we do to each other in this country. Is just hassle each other to shut up. And how dare you feel the way you feel? How dare you think that way? Who do you think you are? This is why you're so wrong. And no one's willing to have a discussion about fuck all, pardon my French, parental advisory. Lord forgive me for my idle language, but it's not. It's out of desperation and frustration that I think to myself, what the fuck has happened to our country and our discourse? When I was a kid, one of my best friends was someone with whom I passionately disagreed about a lot of things when I was a teenager. And it was he was my best friend. And I still look up to this guy to this day as someone who was able to sort of grapple with arguments and make counter arguments and admit when he was wrong and admit when you were right and would be able to challenge your arguments. And like this was one of the people that sort of had me questioning my own beliefs, and had me going sort of really truly through the process of figuring out why it was that I believe what I believe. But to actually answer the question, like, who do you think you are? Well, I'm just a human being for a start, right? I'm just like anyone else. I'm just a human being. We're all just human beings for a start, right? So, and I'm not trying to take the piss here. If we're all people and we all bleed the same, then that means guys like me too. Okay? And if everyone has struggles, and if everyone has bad days, and if everyone has their priorities and people they love and things they worry about and fears, that means people like me too. Okay? So we now reached a point in the culture where it's perfectly acceptable to be outwardly, violently, aggressively racist and sexist towards people who are pale-skinned and male. And like anyone who could be identified even slightly with those characteristics can be judged for it. And like I know tangata whenua Māori that have pale enough skin to be confused and European enough features, thanks to the love for one another that Māori and Europeans have shared in this country for hundreds of years. They've got mixed enough features that they could easily be mistaken for pure Pākehā. And what are they supposed to do about it? When they get mistaken for a European person, and then they get told that they're a white elite member of the upper crust, they're a patriarch, they're this or that. We have honestly gone so far down this shit line of just the politics of childish tantrums, basically. The politics of the unheard child or the complaining child. And it's like, you've now extrapolated to this extreme level, these grievance politics, which allow you to just tell other people to just shut the fuck up for whatever reason. Now, I hear it all the time, and people will be like, oh, well, we've lived this way for long enough, it's time for us to go back to the old... Well, really? Maybe there's plenty to learn about better and worse ways to live from many cultures. You know, maybe. But people will say, who do you think you are? As if to completely disenfranchise you from... As if to mock you and shame you for caring. And I will be honest, because it's nice to be sort of reconciliatory and even-handed, but we can't pretend that it's like a one-sided thing, because it's pretty clear that the way that it works is, if you are on what's commonly understood in the modern parlance to be the left wing of politics, then you will have infinitely more leeway when it comes to carving out your identity and your truth and staking your claim and saying things your way and beating everyone over the head with it. And if you're on the right wing, then you're... And really, I think now things have come so full circle now that what you now have is horseshoe politics. We used to have the spectrum like this, you know, and you'd have left wing and right wing, you know. And yes, I've done that with opposite hands because I'm not sure which way this camera's going. But whatever. You got left wing and right wing, and eventually they horseshoe into something that kind of just... The left and the right wings, the extreme ends, are so close to each other. They're so close to each other, and you can see this in places like America, where there's bipartisan support for military intervention in Palestine. But then there's this myth making that goes on between the right and the left and the Democrats and the Republicans about who's really to blame for the demise of the country. And if you ask the Democrats, it's the Republicans, and if you ask the Republicans, it's the Democrats. But in reality, both are just two wings on the same flightless bird, or two wings of the same $45 million fighter aircraft. So, no matter what you do, make sure that as soon as you hear someone speaking up about their opinion, about their lived experience, which you can only have a lived experience if you're on the left. If you're on the right wing, there's no lived experience for you. You can't claim lived experience. You can't claim this as my truth. If you're on the right, let me just, actually, now I'll simplify this. If you're a Christian, if you believe in God, there's no such thing as lived experience for you. There's no such thing as personal truth for you. There's no such thing as self-identification for you. If you believe in God, you are now subject to the demands and the opinions and the criteria set about Christianity by non-Christians. That's what it is. Okay? And what you'll find is that deep in every group, every subculture, every single one, okay, search yourselves, because none of your friend groups, none of your mates, none of your cultures, none of the, when I say these things and you think to yourself, oh, I've got a place in my head, I've got a place in my heart that's free from corruption. No, you don't. Neither do I. So we should be able to have a conversation about it, right? Because I don't want to rule the world. I wouldn't do a good job of that. I'd become an asshole in 25. Become an asshole. The asshole that I am would expand to unforeseen proportions if I was given power to control the globe. And I'm perfectly happy to admit that I don't want the responsibility of making all the decisions. I want that to be democratized. I want people to learn to love and respect one another. And I want them to, even when they disagree, show civility towards one another. I'm sick of being tarred a racist when, if you actually spoke to someone like myself, you'd find out that one of my favorite things when it comes to the racial melting pot of New Zealand, one of my favorite things, actually, one of the things that I find most enchanting is when I meet a guy who looks Indian but sounds like a Kiwi. Or I meet a guy who looks Fijian but sounds like a Kiwi. Or a guy who's clearly like a black African but sounds like a Kiwi, because you know that they've been here for so long and they've been actively involved in this culture for so long because they were brought here with a correct understanding of what a privilege it is to be granted access to a country fought over and warred over and treated into nationhood by the two groups of people that founded it, and that you would come here and you would respect that and you would try your best to incorporate yourself into the culture, and you would hope that your dark-skinned Indian kid would be able to grow up as an equal among New Zealanders. And it's funny, actually, because we import these people from a country with a caste system, and in my experience, I think that I think it's cool to stereotype again. I think you're allowed to stereotype again, because if you can say whatever you want about white folk, then why can't I say my little thing about white folk as well? You know, I can come up with plenty of hilarious racial stereotypes about white people. No one calls me racist when I bust those out. But as soon as I say, hey, look, I've noticed that recently I am spending a noticeable amount of extra time on the road due to people who seem to be unable to do the speed limit. And when I overtake those people, or when I catch a glimpse of them, they are almost always clearly ethnically Indian. Okay? And to put this into perspective as well, just to share the roastings, just to evenly distribute my ire, when I'm doing 90 kilometers an hour behind someone in the right-hand passing lane on a New Zealand highway, and they are driving a gunmetal grey Ford Ranger, which is completely spotless, with not a speck of dust on the entire vehicle, then I also know that I'm sitting behind some bald-headed, pink-faced, overweight white guy with an ITM fishing club jersey on. We can racially stereotype people. It's actually okay. We could get back to it. Because it makes sense. It makes sense. Actually, one of the most beautiful things about human nature is that there are multiple different cultures. That if you go to Denmark, you'll find Danish people, and a Danish language, a recognizable national culture. And if you go to Pakistan, you'll find Pakistani people speaking the Pakistani language, a recognizable culture. And if you go to China or Japan or Korea or the Netherlands or Russia or the United States, where each state is almost like its own microcosm of a unique culture and a unique makeup of people who aren't nearly as racist as the news would make you believe. It's one of the most wonderful things about humanity that we're all so different. I met this fella the other day that was a relatively like sort of medium tone Māori fella. So he had like dark enough skin to be recognizably tangata whenua. He was definitely like Māori as they come as far as his skin tone was concerned, like pretty dark. Like maybe like a 6 out of 10. But he had red hair. He had like orange curly hair. And I spoke to him, I said, bro, that's crack up. You got blue eyes and red hair and like brown skin. And he said, yeah, I'm part Scottish. And I looked at him and I said to this fella, I said, that's beautiful, bro. Like, that's awesome, man. That truly is awesome. And it's that, I know, I was helping this guy get some gas into his truck on the side of the road. And we had a hug and we had a talk and we chatted about how much love we have for one another in this country. But if you go on the news, they won't tell you about that. If you go on the news, they will stoke racial tensions beyond belief. So to answer the question, I am a dual citizen, so I hold citizenship in New Zealand and in the Netherlands. My mother is an immigrant. My dad is a Kiwi. My dad's dad was an immigrant. My grandfather on my dad's side and my mother are both immigrants who came to this country and fully contributed to and assimilated into the lifestyle to the maximum possible extent. And my grandfather died with a Dutch accent, but he had lived for himself. He created for himself the dream life of a Dutch boy, going to this beautiful island nation after he survived the Indonesian War, where his experience was basically being pushed out of Amsterdam by the invading Germans during World War II, and then being conscripted into a war that he didn't want to participate into, and being made to go to someone else's homeland and forced someone else's country into submission on behalf of the Dutch government. And he was so disgusted by that he ultimately didn't feel like living in the Netherlands anymore. He didn't want to contribute to that society anymore. He wanted to contribute to a fairer society, and he came to New Zealand and he met my grandmother, who was a Kiwi girl of mixed origin, mixed Pākehā origin, and they had 4 sons. Actually 5, but 4 sons. 4 surviving sons. And my dad met when he went to the Netherlands, and he learnt the language. He learnt the language of his blood so that he could flirt with my mum. And they fell in love, and they came here because my mum, again, left what she called home to come to New Zealand because she was so enamored by, so impressed by the quality of the culture of this country that she wanted nothing more than to raise children who would call themselves Kiwis. And actually, a few years ago, my own mother rescinded her Dutch citizenship and became a New Zealand citizen. After years of living here, after 20 years of living here, and being married to a Kiwi, and paying tax into the system, and having Kiwi kids go to Kiwi schools, and to prioritize New Zealand culture over the Dutch culture, which was part of her blood, because we were here now. That was so important, and it meant so much to my own mother and to my dad's dad, that in at least my mum's instance, she actually gave up her Dutch citizenship and is now a New Zealand citizen. And in the instance of my grandfather, I'm actually not sure if he gave up his Dutch citizenship. I don't know that he did, but he nonetheless lived here for the rest of his life. And I'm a dual citizen. I actually lived in the Netherlands for a couple of years, and while I was over there, I learnt the language. So I'm also fluent in 2 languages, and I found it really, really, really important. And when I want to be more delicate with my words here, it was, how can I describe it? the experience of learning not just a new language, but the language of my culture was something that opened my eyes up to a new way of thinking, because I could appreciate human culture in a whole new way, from understanding the way that different languages might use different words and different structures to point to similar things, and how certain concepts can't be translated from one language to another. Like the Dutch have a concept known as gezelligheid, which is untranslatable. And there's a similar sort of concept in, I think, Finnish, which they call hygge, which sort of actually has a similar kind of root consonant sound in a way, but it's the closest English word is coziness, but there is no translation. And so I learned the language of my blood, and so I got more in touch with my heritage, and I felt some greater kinship with my grandfather who had passed away by then, and I never got to speak with my grandfather in Dutch. But it also gave me an appreciation for the value of the Māori language, so that when I returned to New Zealand, I realised how much I missed hearing Te Reo Māori and the Māori place names, and there was something unique about the Māori culture which was untranslatable into English, which I thought was so beautiful, and it was something I couldn't adequately describe, but it meant a lot to me to come home to this country and be greeted by the ornamental gate that exists at Auckland Airport, and I'm perfectly happy to say that I don't know what the appropriate name for that is. And like, I'm not trying to be the white savior or the guy who like figured himself out and now he's all like pro-cultural. I think there's like normal discussions to be had about the values of Māori culture and the values of European culture. This is like normal discussions to be had. Like I was talking to one of my homeboys the other day, and I have homeboys. Okay, I've got homeboys because that's how gangster I am. Okay, I was talking to one of my mates the other day, and he said that he was on a group call with his extended family, and they were all participating through a group call because they couldn't all be there, in watching the kapahaka performance, which is like a cultural performance of, I think, his younger cousin. And one of the things that you notice and that you'll appreciate if you've lived in this country, if you have any knowledge or if you've had any experience of Māori culture at all, is that there's this phenomenon of cousins, of cousins, and like, it's because Māori people know their families better than European people do, generally speaking. Māori people actually know the members of their extended families better than a lot of Pākehā people do. And like, there's something to be learnt from that. And there's also aspects of European culture that have been assimilated into the lives of all sorts of people, both Māori and Pākehā and everything in between, that have improved their lives as well. And so you've got on one side in New Zealand, culturally speaking, I feel like I'm rambling here, but it's just what's necessary. On one side, you've got these absolute racists who are like, all of the problems faced by all Māori for all time are all the fault of all white people who are all bad and all evil. And before the white man came to New Zealand, there was this like high society, and there was no war, and there was no conflict, and there was no like tribalism, certainly no cannibalism. There was nothing but peace, and just like, you get sold this picture of the perfect peace and harmony of the way Aotearoa was before the white man came. And these people believe that all of the problems faced by all Māori for all time are strictly the fault of all Pākehā. And then on the other side, you've got the absolute racism of all problems faced by all Māori for all time are their own fucking fault. And there's no acknowledgement whatsoever that actually the systems of Western government that start doing things like prohibiting rainwater collection and confiscating land and placing limitations on what you can and can't do or build or grow on your own property, and placing limitations and taxations on generational wealth, that everyone gets fucked by those policies, whether they're white or brown or yellow or red or black or whatever color in between, that everyone gets marauded by those policies, but there's no acknowledgement of that either. So you've either got no responsibility, like as a Māori, you either have to have no responsibility for your actions, or you have to have absolute responsibility for all of your circumstances. And as a European, it's basically the same thing. It's like, whatever we did here is all good, and if anyone's struggling in this country, it's their own fucking fault. And guess what? When you're struggling, that's going to be exactly the approach that's used towards you. Because that same government that I voted in was the same government that stripped all of the social support out of the system when I needed it most. So why should I have more loyalty towards the national government? Māori have been here for longer than the national government. Pākehā have been here for longer than the national government. The Treaty of Waitangi's been the foundational document of this country for fucking way longer than the National Party's been in existence. So why should I be more loyal to some politician than to my fellow man in this country? It's retarded. But you have to pick a side, and you have to be a racist. You can't have a discussion. You can't say, look, bro, there's no Māori word for nitrogen, and there's no English word for whakapapa. You can't have that discussion. You can't talk about the fact that you would need an understanding of both languages in order to make any determinations about the usefulness of both languages. You can't talk about the fact that Māori have been disadvantaged in this country and have had their land taken off them. And you can't talk about the fact that some iwi have completely fucked their tangata by selling out, or by, like this data center in Makarewa. Like, the local iwi fully signed that through, and you got to wonder if there was any, like, again, I'm not trying to fucking, I'm just asking the question, bro, because I also know Māori who don't feel represented by Te Pāti Māori, and I also know white folk who don't feel represented by National. So what are we going to do as a country? Just pick a side and go to war with one another on behalf of the people who make six figures in Parliament? On behalf of the people who make six figures in Parliament, you are going to treat your neighbour like shit. For the sake of Marama Davison or Chloe Swarbrick or David Seymour or Christopher Luxon, you're going to, for any of these motherfuckers' sake, you're going to start treating your fellow man like an absolute dog. And that's all we are in this country, man. Just a bunch of caged animals, and the cage is being shaken, and we are biting each other's throats out. And that's what happens in this country every time. Every election cycle. So before you go to the polls, before you go to your mates, before you go down to the pub, before you engage in a civic discussion, and you intend to just be a cunt, first consider, before sharing them, which of your beliefs are going to encourage your fellow man when you share them? And which of your beliefs are actually going to guide the people around you towards a higher truth that we can all share as a nation? Because I can think of a few people that I would go to for tikanga Māori advice about how to improve our understanding of our relationship to nature. And I can also think of, like, biological scientists and geoengineers that I would go to who are all sorts of colours, actually. So what are we doing, What are we doing as a country before we get into this next election cycle and we start ripping each other's throats out about which party they're going to vote for? I'm personally going to make, I'm just going to state clearly, a vote of no confidence in the system whatsoever to deliver on the needs of the people of New Zealand, Māori and Pākehā alike. And that's who my loyalty is to. Okay? When it comes to this country is made up of the combined forces of two groups of people who warred with one another, who agreed with one another to sign a treaty, and it's that treaty has been abused on both sides. Okay, and to the extent that the agreements of the European settlers who were supposed to leave the land to the people who owned it in certain instances, and to actually settle on and to incorporate other land into the European nation that was formed here, that they broke those agreements. And also that certain Māori bear responsibility for their participation in selling off portions of their land, portions of their indigenous land, to the Crown through the Land Management Act, or I think it was the Land Settlement Act. The Land Management Act, I think in the 1800s, maybe was it 1930s? And some act got passed which basically said that if you're a member of an iwi who has a custodial land, that you could sell your share of that land, even though your responsibility is to your whenua and your whānau. You should sell that shit and get a quick buck. And so by doing that, the government created division amongst Māori and got some land. Mean. And now we're paying for it down the line because all we have is misunderstanding and hatred for one another, and we're heading into another election cycle. Fuck, I love Kiwis, man. Okay? And Kiwis do fly. They do come in from other places and become Kiwis. It's possible. I get it. I'm not trying to cut hard lines here. I don't think that there's no such thing as assimilation. I don't think zero immigration. I just think we have to get to grips with what our intention is with this country before we start just giving it away to someone else. And so the race politics is going to be used this cycle to completely distract you. And I don't want it to distract you. I think you should love your neighbor, and you should soften your heart to the people that you think are your enemies. Because probably your real enemies are in Parliament. They're not down the street from you. It's not even that homeless fellow who's yelling at you on the street. It's not that guy who makes way more than you in town. He's just doing his best as well. He's got big bills and a family's got to support as well. Like, if we could band together as a country and just... Oh, it sounds so stupid, so corny. But if we could just treat each other with some love and decency, man. We could just love one another. Just read the text of our national anthem. Eh? God of nations, at thy feet in the bonds of love we meet. Hear our voices, we entreat. God, defend our free land. Guard Pacific's triple star from the shafts of strife and war. Make her praises heard afar. God, defend New Zealand. Men of every creed and race, gather here before thy face, asking thee to bless this place. God, defend our free land. From dissension, envy, hate, and corruption, guard our state. Make our country good and great. God, defend New Zealand. Peace, not war, shall be our boast. But, should foes assail our coast, make us then a mighty host. God, defend our free land. Lord of battles, in thy might, put our enemies to flight. Let our cause be just and right. God, defend New Zealand. Let our love for thee increase. May thy blessings never cease. Give us plenty, give us peace. God, defend our free land. From dishonour and from shame, guard our country's spotless name. Crown her with immortal fame. God, defend New Zealand. May our mountains ever be freedom's ramparts on the sea. Make us faithful unto thee. God, defend our free land. Guide her in the nation's van, preaching love and truth to man, working out thy glorious plan. God, defend New Zealand. Bruv. And like, I had an instance today where, see, I'm not broadcasting my screen. I do this nose twitch thing, alright, just get used to it. I do this because I'm itching my nose without touching my face, okay? Okay? Fuck. Pardon my French, eh? I'm passionate. I saw a post where there was a New Zealand man, I say New Zealand because he's living here, but he's an Indian blogger, who had made a post that was basically saying that if you back National Act NZ first, that you're just an idiot racist. And he put up a classic example of someone genuinely being an idiot racist. I don't think a raghead goat shagger has any right of speech. Go drive your Uber. From some fucking retard with sunnies. This is the pink-faced white man I'm talking about. Some bucket hat wearing pink-faced white bloke holding a fish in his picture, being an absolute dumb racist online. And then I get this comment. I see this comment from some fella, and he says, he needs to learn the second verse of the New Zealand national anthem. Men of every creed and race, gather here before thy face, asking thee to bless this place, God defend our free land, etc. You just heard it. And I commented, I said, yep, a national anthem which necessarily incorporates the Christian faith into the foundation of a national culture. Men of every creed and race, gather here before thy face, asking thee to bless this place, God defend New Zealand. So there is a requirement to recognise a primary culture and a need that all people gathered here together recognise the same divine authority. This is why second US President John Adams famously said, our constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other, because only people of a unified belief can hope to achieve a common purpose. New Zealand is a Christian nation. It was founded that way, and it shall remain so, except to her own demise. And the reply to that? Theistic, definitely, but the God could be that of the Jews, the Muslims, and even Zeus. And the response from this Indian doctor, who is trying to make a case that I should soften my heart towards more immigration into this country, replies, Zeus defend our free land sounds way better. Okay, I'm trying to come in right through the middle here and say, look, bro, come here, make a life for yourself here, but do not dare to shit on the good culture of this free land. Don't. We're not interested. Okay, this is a Christian country, and it's a Christian country made up of Christian Māori and Christian Pākehā and Christian values and Christian laws. And if you don't understand that, you do not understand the history of Western democracy and the rule of law. You do not. Okay, and that does not exclude Māori, because Māori participated in that and were the only Indigenous people in all of the world who fought so valiantly for the land they called home that a treaty had to be made with them so that they could make their own agreements about what the terms of their surrender of hostilities would be, and that they would agree to combine forces with the European settlers and make a nation here. Okay, that is fucking gangster. That's gangster. They basically invented trench warfare. I'm pretty sure there is a famous quote of Hitler saying that if he had the Māori battalion at his disposal, he would have taken over the whole world. Okay? So our pride as a nation is actually wrapped up in the mana of the tangata whenua. If we deny this, we will do so at our peril. It is also wrapped up in the strength and the values of the teachings and the way of life and the culture brought to earth by Jesus Christ. The man who was born in Bethlehem and who was raised in Nazareth and who spoke Aramaic and who walked on this earth for 33 years and was born of a virgin and lived and died and was resurrected. And all of these are historical facts, by the way. Just to jab that in there, just real quick. That's all historical fact. There is no arguing with that. That is historical fact. And if you just spent anywhere near the amount of time you've spent arguing online with Christians, looking into the apologetics of why Christians actually believe what they believe, and the validity of the historical record, which presents a flawless 24,000 manuscripts to back up the fact that the New Testament says today what it said back then in 50 to 100 AD when it was written immediately after the events of Jesus' life. That's the foundation of this country, and that was agreed to by the Māori who were here. And so it's my duty as a Christian to honour those people by not letting their country get turned to shit. Okay? Just read a quick Bible verse. I'm not big on referencing the Old Testament, but this is Deuteronomy 28, and I'll just go 40 to 68. You will have olive trees throughout your country, but you will not use the oil because the olives will drop off. You will have sons and daughters, but you will not keep them because they will go into captivity. Swarms of locusts will take over all your trees and the crops of your land. The foreigners who reside among you will rise above you higher and higher, but you will sink lower and lower. They will lend to you, but you will not lend to them. They will be the head, but you will be the tail. All these curses will come upon you. They will pursue you and overtake you until you are destroyed because you did not obey the Lord your God and observe the commands and decrees he gave you. They will be a sign and a wonder to you and your descendants forever, because you did not serve the Lord your God joyfully and gladly in the time of prosperity. Therefore, in hunger and thirst, in nakedness and dire poverty, you will serve the enemies the Lord sends against you. He will put an iron yoke on your neck until he has destroyed you. The Lord will bring a nation against you from far away, from the ends of the earth, like an eagle swooping down, a nation whose language you will not understand. A fierce-looking nation without respect for the old or pity for the young. They will devour the young of your livestock and the crops of your land until you are destroyed. They will leave you no grain, new wine or olive oil, nor any calves of your herds or lambs of your flocks until you are ruined. They will lay siege to all the cities throughout your land until the high fortified walls in which you trust fall down. They will besiege all the cities throughout the land the Lord your God is giving you. Because of the suffering your enemy will inflict on you during the siege, you will eat the fruit of the womb, the flesh of the sons and daughters the Lord has given you. Even the most gentle and sensitive man among you will have no compassion on his own brother or the wife he loves or his surviving children, and he will not give to one of them any of the flesh of his children that he is eating. It will be all he has left because of the suffering your enemy will inflict upon you during the siege of all of your cities. The most gentle and sensitive woman among you, so sensitive and gentle that she would not venture to touch the ground with the sole of her foot, will begrudge the husband she loves and her own son or daughter, the afterbirth from her womb and the children she bears, for in her dire need she intends to eat them secretly because of the suffering your enemy will inflict on you during the siege of your cities. If you do not carefully follow all the words of this law, which are written in this book, and do not revere this glorious and awesome name, the Lord your God, the same Lord God which is referenced how many times? 25 times. Maybe slightly less, like 18 times in the national anthem. 3, 5, 7, 9, 11 times. It's mentioned 11 times, the name of God. If you do not carefully follow all the words of this law which are written in this book, and do not revere this glorious and awesome name, the Lord your God, the Lord will send fearful plagues on you and your descendants, harsh and prolonged disasters, and severe and lingering illnesses. He will bring on you all the diseases of Egypt that you dreaded, and they will cling to you. The Lord will also bring on you every kind of sickness and disaster not recorded in this book of the law until you are destroyed. You, who were as numerous as the stars in the sky, will be left but few in number because you did not obey the Lord your God. Just as it pleased the Lord to make you prosper and increase in number, so it will please him to return and destroy you. You will be uprooted from the land you are entering to possess. Yo. This is us. Okay? And because of the grace and the truth of the gospel, this nation prospered the combined forces of the people who agreed to make a nation together. And when we talk about the formation of that nation, and we talk about all the evil that was done during that time, we really must be certain. Because before you identify your Māori neighbor as just another criminal, and before you identify your white neighbor as just another one of the elite patriarchs, maybe we're all just sifting in this bucket of shit together here in society and struggling just as equally as one another, while all sorts of people and men of every creed and race govern us with an iron fist from above. Maybe we've done ourselves a disservice. And just maybe, and again, I could be wrong, totally open to it, but just maybe your best, most loving, your kindest instincts have been turned against you in your own hand, and now your sense of self-preservation causes you to go to war with your neighbor. And your fear about the environment causes you to vote for a government which intends to enslave you. And your concerns about far-right extremism cause you to vote for speech laws which eventually come crashing down upon you. Your maternal instinct as a woman has been turned into causing you to finger wag and beat down and beat around the head everyone around you who may or may not know better than you do because of your grand feminist ideology, but you won't be a mother. Your paternal instinct, here's me, case in point, is being redirected because you are unable to produce children in this economy. It's being redirected so that you will father the people around you. And like, some of these are for good. It's your better instincts. Don't get me wrong, these are your better instincts. It's a good thing that women care for other people. It's a good thing that men care to lead. And to pave the way. And to be pioneering and whatever. It's a good thing that women can do the things that men can't. It's a good thing that New Zealand has 2 cultures and 2 languages, 3 if you include sign language. It's a good thing. It's to our benefit to understand what we have here and to love one another and to move forward instead of just being divided into camps of dumb, retarded racists by the fucking government again. By the media again. So I fully encourage you to not just hate your enemies. Well, I honestly read this yesterday while I was streaming video games and reading from the Bible. You have heard that it has been said, an eye for an eye, and a tooth for a tooth. But I say to you, that you resist not evil, but whosoever shall smite you on your right cheek, turn to him the other also. And if any man will sue you at the law, and take away your coat, let him have your cloak also. And whosoever shall compel you to go a mile, go with him too. Give to him that asks you, and from him that would borrow of you, turn not away. You have heard that it has been said, you shall love your neighbor, and hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you, that you may be the children of your Father which is in heaven. For he makes his sun to rise on the evil and on the good, and sends rain on the just and on the unjust. For if you love them which love you, what reward have you? Do not even the publicans do the same? And if you salute your brethren only, what do you more than others? Do not even the publicans so? Be therefore perfect, even as your Father which is in heaven is perfect. Tough. And like, before someone jumps on here and says, oh, you just read from Matthew, which means that now you have to be really, 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 really nice to everyone for every reason. You just have to agree with everyone. I talked about this yesterday while I was streaming video games and reading from the Bible. Jesus was a carpenter. Jesus was a carpenter at a time when he would have begun his trade training at about 10 years old. And he would have been a man at 13, which means he would have been required to contribute to the household at 13. So at the latest, he begins his training as a carpenter at 13. But he's probably been doing that shit all his life because his dad, Joseph, was also a carpenter. So Jesus, the son of a carpenter, who is a carpenter, who spends 20-something years working as a carpenter probably, at least 15 years. 15 years in the trades. Not one Instagram story about the deck he's building. Not one mention of the house. Not one mention of the addition. No saddle that he makes. No spoon. No bowl. No hitching post. No fence. No crib. No cauldron. No pot holder. No, nothing that Jesus makes with his hands is recorded in the Bible, save one thing. And every time I ask this little trivia question to Christians, they can't answer it. What's the one thing that Jesus makes with his hands in the Bible? A weapon. Okay? So before you go and you tell me that because the Bible contains the only complete, the only comprehensive and cohesive framework for human morality that has ever existed, that I also have to bow down to your interpretation of it, bruv. Let's be honest. You've got your truth. You got your personal truth. Well, I got the personal truth of this. Okay? And when you're ready to have a discussion about the contents of this book, then I'm sure we'll both be better people for it. But if you're just going to jump on and say, this is not a Christian nation, let's defend our free land sounds better, it could be the God of the Muslims or the Jews. It couldn't be though, could it? Because those gods are very different in characteristics, aren't they? Aren't they? Or do you not know a fucking thing about that which you speak on? Just asking, man. So, before we go down this road, where anyone who has an opinion about anything has to be shut down, because who do you think you are, bro? Who do you think you are, bro? Yo, I'm an ex-meth addict. I am a Christian man who used to be the most well-known atheist at my school and in my youthful years. I am a former addict of things like pornography and sex and hard drugs and late nights and rave lifestyles. I've been in every possible camp you can imagine as far as like lifestyle is concerned. I've had at least a foot in like every possible lifestyle you can imagine, and I arrived back here. So just chill out, bro. Okay? People have this thing where they think anything that gets said with certainty or conviction is like violence. But then they want to tell you to shut the fuck up, bro. And it's like, are we tired yet in this country of telling each other to just shut up? I get it all the time, man. And like, my family are all white. And we do the same thing, man. When I sit down to have a conversation with my dad about something like anything that I care about, you better believe I'm going to hear from every other person in the room in my family about why I should shut up and why I'm wrong and why the conversation should stop now. And that's all we do as a country, as a culture. It's our serious problem. And it's a West-wide problem that we go, nah, sorry, bro. You're not qualified to have an opinion about that. You're not allowed to think about that. Sorry, G, that's actually offensive. So we're going to have to destroy the whole world because you can't be saying anything that's offensive, alright? Capiche? Got it? You picked your side yet? You ready to be racist? Man, we live in the stupidest world. And no one wants to chat. No one wants to talk about it, bro. Oh, bro, that says politics out. Oh, who cares about politics out? Let's get on the pizza. Let's get fucked up. Yo, let's get fucked up. Yo, fam. Ooh, are you guys talking about politics? That's so retarded. Oh my gosh. Oh, yeah, you wouldn't even say that because you get struck off by your whole friend group for saying that word, the dastardly R word. Bring it back, man. Bring back some, like, if you can't handle a little bit of opposition to what you believe, then maybe you should just stop. Okay, I am this frustrated because I've been dealing with nothing but opposition for everything that I believe for the last, like, 5 to 10 years, and I keep on finding out I'm 100% correct. Or at least 95. And so all the people who morally berated me for making, like, racist jokes on Facebook when I was a kid, and they were like, oh, you can't do that. And I was like, I'm not a racist, I'm just making a fucking joke. But, like, I get it, I'm sorry, you know, like, my bad, you know. And, like, I was actually, like, a little bit of a racist and actually did figure it out. Yeah, that happens, people, all the time. Through things like conversation and life experience, they actually mature. And sometimes they become improved versions of their past selves. I don't know. What you want to do is, as soon as you hear an opinion that makes you feel ickums in your tummy, you're gonna engage the caps lock on your phone and start using slurs, okay? That's it. As soon as you feel it comes in your tum-tums, if it comes in your tum-tum, then that's when you start being a bastard, alright? So it's just as soon as you feel confronted by anything, that would be a good time to start being an asshole. Alright? Got it? Sweet. Well, then you're ready for this season of New Zealand politics. God bless.